Communist China wants to improve its image as the Beijing Olympics draw near. But China is trying to block criticism by cracking down on dissidents and anyone critical of the government. As Kitty Pilgrim reports, the repression is not having the effect the Chinese desire. Instead, it's sparking international outrage.
Congressman Chris Smith just got back from Beijing last night. But today he was already on camera demanding the Chinese government live up to its promise. The Chinese pledged increased freedom when they were awarded the Summer Olympics.
In just a month or so, we'll watch opening ceremonies of the Olympics with smiling faces, flags waving, but that belies the reality on the ground for those who truly want human rights. They will be sitting in a prison.
When Smith and Congressman Frank Wolf of Virginia tried to meet with dissident lawyers in Beijing this week, they were blocked and the lawyers detained.
The people that these lawmakers were trying to meet with, they weren't just your kind of run-of-the-mill people. These were some of the most prominent lawyers in China, part of a movement really promoting human rights and the things that the Chinese government likes to talk about on the level of rhetoric.
In the lead up to the Olympics, ordinary citizens and journalists have been repressed for criticism of the government. Reporters Without Borders says 24 journalists have been detained since January, in addition to at least 100 journalists behind bars, falsely accused of revealing state secrets. Countless Chinese citizens have suffered the same fate.
On June 2nd, the Chinese government issued a new and revised list of clampdowns on what foreign journalists are allowed to cover when they go to the region for the Olympics.
U.S. human rights organization Freedom House has branded China not free in its annual list of countries. It cited limitations on reporting the earthquake in China and blackouts in coverage of the protests over Tibet as examples of new press restrictions by the Chinese government. Activists say now is the time to press for expanded human rights and freedoms in China before the Olympic Games, while China is still trying to win the approval of the world. Reporters Without Borders and other groups wrote a letter to Condoleezza Rice asking her to bring up human rights before she attends the G8 summit in the region next week. Lisa.
But, Kitty, is the United States doing enough here?
Well, you know, we had the congressman presenting a list, Chris Smith and Frank Wolf, presenting a list of 700 political prisoners that they want released. They actually went to Beijing to present that list. Activists would actually like to see President Bush boycott the opening ceremony. They say that would send the message.
Certainly would send a very strong message. All right. Thanks, Kitty, for that report.